Okay, so now I'm gonna mention a story about a brother who became a Muslim from the musicians that I used to work with, alhamdulillah. And I'm going to narrate a story about him in relation to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's his hadith, what he said. From among my followers, there will be some people who will consider illegal sexual intercourse, the wearing of silk, the drinking of alcoholic drinks, and the use of musical instruments as lawful. People will come in the future and they will say that these things are lawful. The asl of which is that they are not lawful. So this brother's story, it shows the intricacy of the prophecy of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a key word in this hadith which is very integral in how this brother actualized this hadith, which is the word yastahhiluna, which means to seek to make permissible. If you know Arabic, you would understand that the alif, the a, and the sin and the ta at the beginning of a verb, it adds the meaning of seeking or requesting. It adds the meaning of seeking or requesting to a word, a verb or a noun. So the Prophet ﷺ said, people will come in the future from the Muslims who will yastahhiluna ma'azif, who will seek or request to make permissible the playing of musical instruments of all kinds. Again, Farid Abdullah, if you refer back to his lectures, he brings all of the adillah and the references. He breaks down the meaning of ma'azif, of musical instruments, linguistically from the earliest sources, like from the dictionary, from the sources of Sibawayh, who was a famous linguist, Arab scholar. Sorry, he wasn't Arab, he was a Persian scholar of the Arabic language. And his works are a source, a very important source for the Muslims in understanding the meaning of words. So yeah, Farid breaks down the meaning ma'azif linguistically from the earliest sources, from the Sahaba's understanding here, and even I believe he goes into pre-Islamic sources to show the actual, the unequivocal meaning of the word ma'azif. Because many doubts and misunderstandings and mistranslations of this word are being used. So refer back to his videos for clarity. So yeah, this brother in the beginning, he left, when he became Muslim, he left music for a time. He saw the proof for the impermissibility of it. And even actually before he became Muslim, when he was receiving da'wah, he was feeling similar to how I felt. He was becoming jaded with the whole music industry and seeing that we were living in a life of delusion and a life that was clouded from the actual reality of our purpose. He knew the impermissibility of music full well. And he ended up, he went through some tests and he ended up entering back into the industry. So we used to talk together about it and about this issue. And he used to mention that when he was on tour again, he started becoming successful after he went back into the music industry. When he was on tour again, all he wanted to do straight after a show was get into a masjid, get into a mosque to feel, in his words, normal again. Time passed, and I met him again during this meeting. He mentioned how he and other fellow Muslim musicians were trying to find a way to make music halal, basically. So remember the word in the hadith, yastahhiluna, trying to seek permissibility. However, he mentioned he couldn't lie to himself, and he knew that it wasn't the right path to pursue as a Muslim. More time passed, and I met him again, and he said, it's difficult, because I want to make something of myself. I don't want to be a nobody. I remember him saying that. So it's kind of like beginning to justify his pursuits. More time passed, and we met on another occasion, and now he basically blown. He was getting very well known at this point. Yeah, he was touring. He started to tour. He started to be flown out to like New York. He went on to Australia. He was basically being offered record contracts left, right, and center. I could see on the last occasion that I met him, I could see that he didn't have the same aversion as he did at the beginning when he'd gone back into it. He felt kind of, he felt like he knew it was wrong, but he was trying, and this was his test. You know, may Allah help us all. We all have tests. But the point being is that no matter what tests we go through, we need to realize that we do not twist Islam to justify what we are falling short in. I could see that he basically accepted this lifestyle now as a musician. When I saw this from him, I started to feel, you know, worried. I was always there for the brother throughout this time, saying, look, you know, whatever test you go through, you know, you're my brother, and we all fall short in certain things. And I was a musician, and I know the difficult, how this test is a really big test. Now it was a bit different because he was like accepted it for himself. Places he was playing in clubs, in different venues around London, and the temptations and the fitna that you have in front of you in these environments. You know, firstly, there's a bar. People were getting drunk. People were getting high outside, then coming in. You've got all kinds of different women coming in. You know, you can't be in an oven and not cook. That's the reality. After this, I received a reply from him months later, because I wrote a letter to him. I said, Akhi, I'm worried about you. Don't fall back into this. Allah has guided us for a reason and shown us all of his signs. You know the reality of this lifestyle. Anyway, he replied back months later, and he said something along the lines of, you know, music is very normal. It's a very normal part of life in many cultures worldwide. I've matured in my deen, and you know, he even started saying how proud he was to be a musician, and he would even go as far as making dua, calling me back to music. I reminded him of the hadith and how he literally embodied the process of making that thing halal for himself, step by step. I reminded him of what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said the Muslims would do in the future. I said to him, how must your heart feel in this environment, you know, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided you to the haqq and knowing the truth? When you've got people at the bar, you've got temptation right in front of you. You've got people high, everyone dancing to your music, venerating you. Where is your heart in all of this? You can't be in an oven and not cook. It's not possible. You can't be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you're in such an environment. This was a step-by-step process. It comes down to, you know, following the footsteps of shaitan. Allah says in the Quran, O you who believe, don't follow the footsteps of shaitan. You're not gonna just jump back into it straight away. It's gonna be a step-by-step process. The waswas of shaitan, situations in life. Gradually, if you're not careful, you will find yourself back into that situation. A side note, for Muslims, this hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari, and I believe it's in Muslim as well. People think that because al-Bukhari left a gap in the chain of narration, matruk, this is what we call it in Mustalah al-Hadith, because the hadith is matruk, that people say that this hadith is not a hujjah, it's not a proof for the impermissibility of music. However, they don't realize that other muhaddithin, such as Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, amongst others, had numerous connected, unbroken chains for this narration, making it as strong as any other sahih hadith in al-Bukhari. I think a lot of people are ignorant of this point. And this also has an effect on the hukum, on the ruling given by Ibn Hazm, the great scholar of Al-Andalus. Ibn al-Hazm, he deemed music to be permissible because he didn't have the other asanid for this hadith. So he thought it was just left matruk, it's not hujjah. This is from what I've researched. Allah knows best. But also to the Muslim that really wants to leave music behind and he's struggling or she's struggling with this, the biggest factor that helped me come away from music, because it's like an addiction, it's like heroin. You know, a heroin addict, when he leaves heroin, he's never completely free from the addiction. There's always this niggling feeling in the back of his mind. I've never been a heroin addict, alhamdulillah. I've never gone that far. But this is from what we've heard from people. It's like music, you know. Shaitan always brings the waswas and the feeling and the memories of music, and this is the footsteps and the tools of Shaitan to try and drag you back to, you know, that which displeases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I found that when I started, I basically said to myself, if I don't start learning how to read Quran and learning tajweed, and filling my life and my heart with Quran, I'm going to fall back into music, you know, because the waswas, it comes back. So I really tried hard to start learning how to read Quran, and wallahi, there's no comparison. Learning tajweed and learning how to recite the Quran, it pushes away the shaitan. Shaitan can't come near you when you're reading Quran, if you're reading it sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also it just fills your heart. It makes your heart full. You know, we drink and we eat for nourishment for our body, but what do we have for our heart to nourish our hearts? We have the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have the Quran al-Kareem. This is the best dhikr. And if you are struggling with music, turn to Allah, turn to the Quran. Start learning how to recite the Quran. Learn the ulum, the sciences of the Quran, the sciences of recitation, the tajweed, the different qira'at. This will be the best replacement for music.